Hello, welcome to another work together. Today we're going to make a mini album, kind of a micro mini album out of these cards. I got them clearanced at Michael's. They're recollections, I guess you can't really see it. They're just mini cards, instant memories. They were with their instant memory thing that they had, that camera that they had. Anyways, they're cool because they have the slits in there where you can put the photographs in there if you want to. So I kind of like those. And then they're a nice size for, I like unusual sizes, and these are kind of an unusual size for a mini album. So we're going to go ahead and make a mini album out of them. We're going to use my current favorite way to make an envelope mini album. It's one that I've done before, and I saw it on YouTube, so it's someone else's design, but I love it, and so I use it quite a bit. So we're going to start off, we're going to have 2 pages in this, or 2 page sets in this mini album. So for each page set, you need 3 envelopes. Okay. Just like that. Okay. And then to start off, we're going to take 2 from one set. This mini album comes together really easy once you know how to do it. It's one of the reasons why I like it so much. So all I did is I just removed a little bit of the curve because I learned that they don't really fit inside the other envelope if you don't remove a little bit of it. Okay. So now I folded one of them backwards so that they fit together like this. I'm just going to put them together like that. Then I'm going to take the other one that I have open, fold it open, and I slip these 2 covers I just slip these 2 flaps right inside this envelope, and then I close it up, and it works quite well, and it makes a nice 3-page mini album. I like to keep this flap on the back page, so I open it up, I make sure that's to the back, then I open it up again, and I pull this page out, and all I'm going to do is put some adhesive on this part of the flap where the adhesive is already. Then I'm going to hold this together, and I'm going to very carefully insert this flap into the envelope because it wants to stick to itself. I don't want it to stick until I know that I have it lined up exactly how I want it. Once I have that, then I'm going to press it down, and then when you open it up again, you won't be able to pull that out. Okay? Then the next step, you turn the page to this page, and then you're going to be left with this flap. Okay? I close the flap, and then I'm going to put my adhesive on this portion of the flap. Whoops. And then I just bring the back end of the book out, make sure they line up, and then press it so that when I open it up now, that's adhered, and that's adhered, and the whole book is adhered, or the whole page set is adhered. Okay. So now I have that one. Let's do the second one. Okay. Start off by taking 2 of your envelopes, put them together so the flaps are together, and then just remove a section, just a tiny bit. You don't even need to remove much. And with some envelopes, you don't need to do this. Just make sure if the flaps fit inside, then you can skip that step if you don't have these envelopes. Okay. Then take the 2 that you just cut and put them up together like that. Take your last envelope, fold it backwards. I just fold the flap over to the back side, and then try to get those flaps inside the envelope, just like that. And if they don't go, then take them apart and try to cut a little bit more off, you know. If they don't line up the way that you need them to, just pull them apart and cut a little bit off, and then they will go in there. Okay? Once you have them, then you open it up. Make sure this flap is to the back. Open this one, pull it out, and then we just put adhesive on that. Then holding our book together, we just take and slip it inside there, just like that. Make sure they line up. And then once you have it lined up, then you can press it down. And now they're stuck together. Now turn the page and do the same. Put the adhesive on this flap. And then bring this closed. Make sure everything lines up. Once it does, press it down. And then you have your two book pieces. Just to keep it sort of the same, I like to put the flap that's on the inside, I like to put that to the back. You don't have to, it's just how I kind of do it. Now you've got those two together. Now we're going to open these up a little bit. So all we do, put them in your cutter, and we're just going to remove a tiny sliver. I'm putting them at the 2 and what mark is that? That's going to be the 16th, the 15/16, I believe. It's just one tiny little line away from the 3, because you don't want to really change the size of your envelopes too much. You really just want to, what I'm doing here is evening them all out at the ends and opening them all up. So now the back end of my book will be even, as opposed to like this one, they're not quite even, which you can't really tell because it's too bright, I'm sorry, but they aren't quite even. They don't quite match up as much as I would like them to. And so doing it this way, it helps open them up and lines them up. Okay, so now that you've done that, now we just, I like to go around and make sure that it actually did open up the envelopes. Okay, they're all open now. We have our 2 pages. The next thing that we need to do is to cut out our hinges, okay? These are our paper hinges. These are sized 1.5 by 4 by 4 3/4. And then I cut just a sliver off of the top of them. So they're just under 4 3/4 so that they fit inside the envelopes. I scored them with a 1/4 inch space in the middle of them. So whatever size you make yours, just in the middle, give them a 1/4 inch space. Now here's the thing, you can give them a bigger space in the middle if you want to be able to put more embellishments on them. You could get it bigger, you can even make it smaller. There doesn't need to be the space in the middle if you don't want to add embellishments. You can just play with them and see how you want it to look, you know. Okay, so then we just do up our folds like that. Okay. Alright. So now, to keep this easier, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The way that I'm going to do them is I'm going to attach my hinges to each other before I put them in the book, because then that way I know that they're going to line up better. And to me, that's what I want. I want them to line up. So all I'm doing here is lining up the edges of my and they're still giving me a fit. Why won't you just go together like I want you to? Okay. There we go. So now I have two that are together like that. And now I'm going to put another one on there. Just like that. Okay. If you wanted to, you could also use the peaks and valley folds to put them together to make this thing too. I prefer to do it this way sometimes because I feel like they open up a little bit better, but the choice is yours. So now all you're going to do, well, I guess not all we're going to do, we're going to remove a little bit because they don't quite fit in the envelope. So just test it out, make sure it fits inside your envelope just like that. And that's all you do, is you just slide it inside the envelope. Okay. I'm going to tone down this brightness a little bit so hopefully you can see better. There. I'll show you with this one now. So you take this, the spot where you have just the one opening, you're just going to slide that right into there. And then now you should have the makings of your book. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to start off, I'm going to put adhesive on one of them. And I'm just going to put it on one side. And then I'm going to take my back book, and I want to make sure my flap, because I want to keep them all together, or all the same way, especially if you're doing more than just two of them. My flap that I adhere to the outside is on the back of this page. Then all I'm going to do is slip this in. Whoops. Just make sure you don't slip it in too much and don't go over your score mark, and you'll be good. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing to this one. I'm just going to put my adhesive on here. And you can just adhere these one at a time too. That's what I used to do. But I find it so hard to get them lined up perfectly that I get annoyed with it, and then I want to just not have it. I just don't want to do it that way anymore. Okay. So now my book is essentially connected. Alright. We have all of these ready to go. Now the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take two of the craft cards, and I'm going to adhere them. They're going to get adhered inside the middle of each page set. Okay? And I'm going to adhere them because I don't want them to pull out. If you don't, if you want yours to pull out, then don't adhere them. Just stick them in there. I don't like messing, because if you can see inside there, there is a flap here that's not attached to anything. And plus then this is also where we put our binder or our hinge and so it interferes with removing them easily. So I'm not going to make mine so that it can come out of the center. I'm just going to leave mine so that I can, it'll just be a flap. Now I'm going to stick it in there, and then I'm going to line it up, center it because it's taller than the envelope, and then press it down really good. Okay, so now we have a flap there, and then we're going to work with the first one here. You can see again inside there we have another flap, so we're going to take another one. This card set came with 4 craft cards, 2 black cards, and 2 white cards. So I'm using 2 of each of them. Okay. Then I'm going to stick this in here again. I put the 2 craft ones in the center. And then all they'll do is open up. They will not pull out. And then I'll put a black one in the back page, and I just stuck it in there, and I'll put it in the back page of this one as well, and then I'll take the white one and I'll stick the white one in the front page there. Okay, and then I'll stick it in the front page of the second page set. So now they're all about the same. Both page sets are equal. And now we have a nice sturdy book. Okay. The next step then is we can set this aside for a minute, and we're going to make our cover. My cover is sized 3 1/8 by 4 3/4, and then so you need 2 that are that size, and then 1 for the spine. If you have more pages, you just need to measure your spine. I made my spine 1 inch by 4 3/4. Okay, and then you can also choose at this point, do you want to cover it with paper, or do you want to cover it with pattern paper, or do you want to cover it with colored paper or just plain cardstock, and then bring the rest of, and then put the pattern paper on it. I'm gonna go ahead and do that because I realized that this paper tears very easily. So if I use it as my spine, and when I fold it over the paper, it will rip, and I don't like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this one, and then I'll put pattern paper on the cover of it. Okay, so I'm putting adhesive on my spine, sticking it down, and I'm using my ATG. I really like this because it's so simple and easy to use, and I do not have any issues, especially when I'm wrapping. I don't have any issues with it pulling up. So for me it works. If it doesn't work for you, then you can use wet glue. Wet glue is good. I don't like the mess of wet glue, so I tend to steer away from it if I can. I do use it, but if I can help it, I like to not use it. And some people, they their ATG just doesn't work for them because of the weather or whatever, what the kind of paper they're using, whatever makes it just not work. So they can't use it, you know. Then you just have to use something else. All right. Okay. So we got that. I'm just gonna go around here, around there, there, and there. I just want to make it a little bit easier to fold up. And then I'm just gonna go around and do all my folds. Probably should have used a black just to set off the 2 black cards that are in there, but it's okay. Okie dokie. I have way too much paper I'm using here, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove some of it just to make folding a little bit easier. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove corners. And then adhesive all the way around the edges of my book. Okay, and then I like to do the shorter edges. I just always do the shorter edges first. And then pull in the excess just like that. Then the longer edges, and then just a lot of pressure, make sure it's really stuck down, and then I like to go over my edges with the flat end of my bone folder just to make sure that they're nice and square. Okay. And then the last step is to really work in the edges of the book there. So there we have that. And now I'm going to pick this side. It's a little bit neater. I'm going to go ahead and make this is going to be my front. Okay. And then we take our book and it's possible that I made my spine a little bit too long, or a little bit, I scored it a little bit wrong, but that's okay. Alright, what I like to do for this part is I'm actually going to go ahead and use my wet glue. I'm going to adhere it here, perhaps I will. Alright, maybe I won't. Alright. Still. I want to make sure that I have a good amount right there for my center part. I always like to make sure that right up to the edges where it folds that I have a good amount of glue when I use a wet glue. Okay, then just gonna put this kind of centered as best I can. And the great thing about using a wet glue is that you can maneuver it around a little bit until it's kind of where you want it. The hardest thing for me about using a wet glue, besides the mess, is being patient. Because I don't like to sit and hold it while it dries. I want to go on to the next step. Okay. However, using a wet glue does allow a little more, it sticks better to the spine. I do find that I get a much better spine piece when I use the wet glue as opposed to using the dry glue. Okay, so I believe we have a pretty good stick. You can see when I fold the page it doesn't move at all. The spine is really stuck there. The sides are still moving because I have not adhered those yet. But you can see we have a pretty good start to our book. Actually, it's not really a start anymore. We're almost finished. Just going to put a little tiny dab of wet glue there and press it down. I like to do these ones in the folded position because it helps it stay that way. Okay, and then a little bit more here. And okay, adhere it really well. And adhere it there. So there we have our book. It's coming along quite nicely, if I do say so myself. I'm happy with how it's looking so far. All we need to do now is give it some color. Sorry about that noise. Alright. So I had decided that I was going to use these as my cover. And I forgot. My cover is 3 1/4. So if I cut these to 3, then I can get 2 out of 1. Cut them down to 3. That's 1. It's a little more white space than I normally like, but I am a little bit of a frugal crafter. So if I can get 2 out of it, then you better believe I'm gonna try. There we go. There's my front and my back. Okay. Let's go ahead and adhere these. Okay. And my front. There we go. Okay. Now we've got those. And I think that's going to be alrighty. Well, anyways, you get the idea of how I made the book. Now comes the decorating. So I will come back when it's all decorated. Actually, you've probably already seen the decorated part in the front of this video. So I leave you with a finished photo. Bye now.